So I'm here to talk about jet lag science, how to time shift to eliminate jet lag, and also about the opportunity that jet lag represents to the wellness and travel industries. A very short few words about myself. I'm a serial entrepreneur, have co-founded a handful of technology businesses in the past. The last 12 years, I've been incredibly excited about mental performance well-being. So I'm very excited about mental health being part of the Global Wellness Summit. This is actually me. My mom flew for Scandinavian Airlines for 45 years, so I practically grew up on a plane. So this full circle, now technology and the travel industry comes together. Yet I had no idea that jet lag would be something we could cure. So how many in here have struggled with jet lag before you used Timeshifter? Okay, great. So last year, about 500 million people traveled on long-haul flights. And the studies we see around how many struggle with jet lag are pretty aligned. It's about 93, 92, 94% of those asked. So the consequences of jet lag are far more costly and wide-ranging than feeling off for a couple of days. Of course, we have reduced productivity, reduced performance, we have reduced safety, and then we have less enjoyment. But also, many leave earlier to acclimatize so they can perform when they need to perform at their best. Recovery time when you get home. If you get home on a Friday after a long-haul flight, you're not the best husband or wife or mom or dad. And then you have the long-term health implications that mirror those of shift workers. Increased chances of stroke, diabetes, and also certain cancers. And yet, we've been doing it all wrong. We have relied on advice from non-experts, and we've trusted false product claims. Or just accepted jet lag as part of travel. Unfortunately, there is no generic solution that can help us tackle the underlying cause of jet lag, and it might even make your jet lag much worse. So you might wonder, this is the 21st century. We have recyclable space rockets and autonomous cars. Why haven't we solved jet lag yet? Well, 3 things needed to be in place for that to happen. The science needed to catch up. So only lately, within the past 10, 15 years, we've really come to understand circadian neuroscience. We'll talk about it in a minute, much better. Somebody credible had to apply the science and inspire us all to take it seriously. And then also we needed a mass way to deliver personalized advice. And of course, Apple with the App Store that came out in 2007 enables a lot of us to provide personalized solutions for over 1 billion people. So now with all of that in place, it's time to replace science or guessing with science and inspire people about the opportunity to solve jet lag and build travel experiences to make it possible and easy. So before I dig into jet lag science, let's talk about sleep for a moment. There are 2 underlying sleep systems that are directing or dictating our sleep and sleepiness. The first one is the sleep drive. The longer you stay asleep, the more rest you're going to feel in the morning. The more you stay up during the day, the more tired you're going to get at night. But the second one is the circadian clock in our brain. In the hypothalamus part of our brain, we have a 24-hour clock that loves consistency. It wants you to go to bed the same time every day. It wants you to get up the same time every morning. So just a little extra piece of information is that the 24-hour clock in our brain is not always 24 hours. Early birds, theirs is between 23.5 hours and 24. It's faster, and that's why you wake up earlier. Night owls, it's between 24 and 25. So there's a biological explanation why some people are early risers and why some people are better at night. So when you shift to a new time zone, you are disrupting the circadian clock. And that's when you begin to feel the symptoms of jet lag. And there are a lot of symptoms, as you can see. Here's the problem. In the travel industry, we focused on sleep and fatigue. So we put in mattresses, pillows, great pillows. We have all these wonderful things that certainly support the sleep environment and are very important. But you cannot force people to sleep when their circadian clock is out of sync. So you have trouble falling asleep and you wake up in the middle of the night The same with fatigue. You cannot just ask people to wake up in the morning and feel great and feel energized if their circadian clock is not in sync with the local time zone. So we need to move that focus completely away from sleep and fatigue and addressing the underlying circadian misalignment instead. We need to shift the circadian clock as quickly as we possibly can towards the new time zone. How do we do that? Here's some surprising news. It's all about light. It's all about timing light. If you see the right light at the right time, you will shift the circadian clock extremely fast towards the new time zone. But if you see the wrong light at the wrong time, you're going to make it much worse. In fact, you can go on a 6-hour time zone difference, and then you can arrive with 8 time zone difference when you get to your destination very easily if you don't do the right thing. Another thing you can do in addition to timing light, you cannot do it without timing light, but you can use melatonin supplement, which is available over the counter in the US, not in every country. But if you get the right type and the right dose of melatonin at the right time, and know the dose is not 5-10 milligrams, it's between 0.5 and 3 milligrams, so anything above that is not going to help you so much. That can be used. And here you see what the scientists are using. It's sort of the foundation of jet lag science. It's called a phase response curve. And it shows you when you apply light and when you apply melatonin, how you can either advance or delay the circadian clock in our brain. So there is real high quality studies conducted by Harvard Medical School, Stanford, and all kinds of institutions. So what I'm talking about here is real science and not just a gimmick. So now knowing what you know about the science, let's go through a few examples of what travelers do today and why it isn't working. Sleep as much as possible on the plane. So sleep equals avoiding light. It equals darkness. When you close your eyes, there's darkness. So what I said before about seeing the right light at the right time, if you're sleeping, you're avoiding light. If you should have seen bright light at the time you're sleeping, you're making jet lag much worse. Use sleep medications. Of course, the same applies to that. You need to sleep at the right time, but also sleep medications is not shifting your circadian clock anywhere. Jet lag massages, acupuncture, and special diets is probably one that people in here are more familiar with. Of course, it's absolutely wonderful to receive all of those services, but it's just not shifting the clock. So we can't make claims about the fact that it does. It's for your health, it's for your well-being, great, but it's not for jet lag. And then there's go for that 7 a.m. run. So number one, exercise and diet does not do anything to your circadian clock, or almost anything. It's a very weak circadian synchronizer. But in addition to that, if your clock at your home time zone is at 2 a.m., when you're out 7 a.m. at your new time zone, that's not the best time to go and exercise. Your body is not ready for it, and therefore it's a bad idea. Stimulants, coffee is great to get a little boost of energy, but you need to use it right. Small doses more often, and you need to know when to avoid caffeine so you don't disrupt the sleep quality later at night. It can be in your blood up to 8 hours. Then there's this one. This is the new planes, the Dreamliners, and all the fancy LED light. They are very powerful, those lights, but the problem is that it's the wrong light at the wrong time. So they're shifting us the wrong way. And then we have business class. Again, like I said about sleep, it's great to have the sleep environment be absolutely incredibly good so you can sleep when you're supposed to sleep. But again, if you sleep at the wrong time, this won't make it a good experience. And the 5-star hotels, the great hotels, also a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to sleep with a good mattress and a nice pillow and have other black curtains, all of that. But you need to know what to do on lighting, melatonin, and timing. So with all of this in mind, you can understand that when I met this guy, Dr. Stephen Lockley, who is a leading circadian neuroscientist and Harvard professor some years ago, I got pretty excited about what he was able to share with me, the science and the application of science. In fact, Stephen Lockley has now for more than 12 years worked to apply this science at NASA to help the astronauts, mission control, and other people traveling at NASA. And he's applying it both as it relates to jet lag, but also peak performance. It so happens to be the exact same principles to get the circadian clock ready to be alert and awake or tired and sleep. For the past 6 years, he's also worked for Formula One drivers and teams. He's worked for other elite athletes, Olympic athletes, and top CEOs to help them. And so what we did back in last year in June, we launched an app that makes the exact same algorithm and solution available to every traveler on the world at a fragment of the price. Instead of this being a concierge-based service that costs thousands of dollars, this is a very cheap way to get this advice. And with Timeshifter, you can shift your circadian clock 3 to 4 times as fast as normal. So it's not a little incremental change where you feel, I think it was a little bit better. For those of you that have tried time shifting on the way here, and you could really see a big difference. If you didn't see a big difference, I want to talk to you. I want to figure out what went wrong. Most often, people that don't have the incredible experience the first time, it's because they ignored the light advice, and that is the absolute key. So here's a little video of retired astronaut Mike Massimino, I hope.
That's why I was thrilled to see that Timeshifter was now taking that plan that I was used to as an astronaut, where a lot of these smart people like Smith put it together for me. I don't know where to begin to do that. It's not as easy as you think, but it's great to have this app now that I've used for the past few months when I use it to travel here, and it's absolutely fantastic. It gives you that plan so that you're ready to go when you arrive. I think what you're saying, what comes out of NASA, I think what's very gratifying about this product that's being developed here is that it comes from a lot of the lessons we learned at NASA. And it's funny you're saying some of the ideas of people tell you, how do you do this, and it's a lot of it is made up hearsay of people saying, well, this works for me, or drink this, or drink that, or take a nap upside down, or whatever. You know, people have got all these home remedies that are a bit nutty, I think, for lots of things. And it's very interesting now in the age we are where we can collect data and study things and have apps that can help us, where you can apply the math, the science, the methods behind it and come up with an answer. And sometimes it's different than what you would expect. You know, if it was easy to figure out how to sleep shift, then none of us would ever be jet lagged. But without a tool like this, you're kind of guessing of what you need. And I think it's much better, and what we found at NASA, it's much better to use data to help you make those informed decisions. And I think it's great that this is something that was at a necessity for us to keep astronauts awake while they're doing their job. Now it's turned into something that I can use in my travel now, and not as an astronaut. And I was telling these guys earlier that the first time I used Timeshifter was back in May. I had a trip to Montenegro, and I got back, and I arrived just in time for a family function. You know, everyone was kind of waiting for me to arrive at this thing. And I got there, and my sister and my sister-in-law were talking to me, and I was like, "What's the matter? Like, we can't believe that you just come off an airplane from Europe, and you seem wide awake." And I was like, "Timeshifter." And I said, "Mickey's note." So that was that I think is the best testament to it. That there really is a science behind it. That these people have studied, Steve and Smith and people at NASA, and they did it because we had that need to be able to get to space and be alert in case there's an emergency. You have to be alert. You can't be not feeling well because you're jet lagged. You have to be alert. And so it was a necessity, and now it's turned into something that I think is just as much a necessity for the world we live in now as we travel so much across time zones so frequently.
Whoops. So how does it work? You put in your sleep pattern, your chronotype, and your itinerary, and some personal preferences if you want to use melatonin or not, and then it comes out with a highly personalized plan, very personalized. It tells you when to see light, when to avoid light. It tells you when to take melatonin if you opted in, and when to go to sleep. And then it tells you how to use caffeine the best way. You can turn this on and off. If you're not into caffeine, you can turn it off. So now the biggest question I often have is compliance. You know, if you have to see light and you find yourself in a dark plane, what do? You crank up the brightness of your screen, of your in-flight entertainment system or computer, and then you're shifting 3 to 4 times as fast as normal. If you happen to be out in the sun, enjoying a lunch in Paris, and you need to avoid light, you put on your dark sunglasses. It's very easy to comply with. So here's my own trip. I live in New York. I'm Danish. I grew up in Denmark, but I've been in New York for 14 years. I also lived here in Singapore for a few years, so it's great to be back. My New York to Denmark trip before understanding circadian neuroscience was a mess. I would leave one of the normal flights, standard flights that I would take from New York is 11 o'clock at night, and I'd get in the next day at 12:30 in the afternoon. I'd go out in the airport 2 hours before the flight, bright light in the airport, right? And then I'd go on board the plane, and now there's 2.5-hour meal service, bright light, at 11 o'clock at night. And the consequence, I would sleep in the rest of the flight, ignore breakfast, and I'd get to Denmark at 12:30 when the Danes have been up for 6 hours. I just woke up. So now the consequences were difficult, really difficult for me to get up in the morning because my circadian clock was back in the middle of the night in New York. And then the second night, I would typically wake up in the middle of the night and couldn't fall back asleep, started watching TV shows, which is the worst thing you can do because you get bright light and that wakes you up. So now with Timeshifter, my profile is such that it tells me to avoid light before I go when I get out to the airport. So I put on my sunglasses, eat my dinner at the airport, go on board the plane, put on my sleep mask, and I sleep right from the beginning. And then I wake myself up only 4 hours later, and then I see bright light when everyone else in the plane is sleeping. So by doing that, I wake up 7:30 in the morning on my own, no alarm clock, feel great, and I sleep through every night. Same that happened coming here, 12 hours from New York, 12-hour time zone difference. You know, some of you might be good on one direction, and then the other one is terrible. And that's the terrible one is the one you got to try the science on and see for yourself how it works. Okay, so we'll skip over these. That's what I just mentioned. So how personalized is a jet lag plan? Is this something you can do on your own? No, absolutely not. Here is 2 people traveling on the same flight. They have the same sleep pattern, the same chronotype, you know, early bird or night owls, but they have a different departure time. Now their plans are completely different. Another example is same sleep pattern, same itinerary, they're on the same plane, but they have different chronotypes. One is an early bird, another one is a night owl. So if you're going to the other side of the globe, we'll shift the early bird east around the globe in the plan, and the night owl west around the world, because it's easier for early birds to shift east. So they are very personalized and not something that's logic in any way. So why should you care about your customer's jet lag? You should do it for a lot of reasons, but there are 4 reasons I just want to bring up here. The first one is, of course, it's all about caring and being empathetic with their travel experience, which can be rough when you travel far. Then there's the reviews and loyalty. I mean, a lot of the reviews you see on various hotels and apartments that, you know, Airbnbs that are bad relates to sleep. And then there is the fact that, you know, you want to be innovative and forward-thinking. Everyone in here understands that very well. And then as people start to learn about the implication of the circadian clock and the implications of it as it relates to performance and health, it's going to be an expectation at some point. Here are a lot of things that I predict is going to happen in the travel industry when they understand more about circadian neuroscience. You'll have flight searches that, in addition to the cheapest and fastest filter, is also going to have a less jet lag. So the departure time actually matters and can reduce jet lag quite a lot. You're going to have jet lag reduction areas in airport lounges with biological lighting that enables you to avoid lighting, but really see light and be able to read and do all of that, but with lighting that your circadian clock is not sensitive towards, with non-caffeinated drink bar, etc. The in-flight entertainment system is going to be intelligent around your jet lag plan and tell you what to do, and even offer alternatives. If you ignore the advice, how can you reduce the shifting the wrong way and shifting a little bit towards the new time zone, even if you don't comply fully with the advice? You're going to have in-flight service that will serve the meal at a time where you shouldn't avoid light. You're going to have personalized lighting in business and first class. And when you get to that destination and rent a car, we would know if you're peak fatigued. And if you're peak fatigued, it's the worst time for you to go and drive a rental car, and can put yourself at risk. So We think that there's going to be services where you're taking your guests from a hotel, from the airport to the hotel, or for the car rental company to the hotel, so that your car rental can be placed at the hotel ready for you when you are more alert and awake. And then there'll be jet lag adapted hotel lighting in your room that understands what you need. And just before I end here, my time is up. I want to share that anyone that downloaded the app, which I think should take advantage of, it's a 1-year free complimentary subscription because of 6 Senses. We actually tomorrow is coming out with version 2, and all of the upgrades are free and automatic on your phones. Lots of great features. Multi-city trips are now possible. Unlimited trips. You can add as many trips in the future into the app. Unlimited stopovers. You can edit flights if something is changing. We have quick trip entry where you just need to put in your date and flight number, and then an updated user experience. Thank you so much.